All right, folks, we are live for Thursday's episode of the State of Football, part of NFL Draft Bible. Folks, if you want to stay up to date on every single episode and you're not doing so already, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button wherever you are tuning in. Today, we have a very packed schedule of guests. Dane Vandernat of the NFL PA Bowl is joining us. We're going to talk a little FCF with Ray Austin. And then lastly, Neil Stratton joins us at the end of the show to talk about the latest buzz inside the league. Joining me, though, is John Murphy today. As always, how are you guys doing today? It's Thursday. We've got some football coming back. We're getting close to the weekend.
Yeah, we just had our one-day layoff of no Wednesday night football, right? So, now that we can recover from that, we got some Thursday night college and NFL teams to look forward to.
Right. Any day that we can avoid the weird, awkward scheduling we've been dealing with right now in the NFL is a big plus. So, Dane, we were talking a little bit before the show about some of the latest buzz surrounding the NFL PA Bowl. That is obviously going to be fully virtual, as it was announced, very recently that you guys said you were going to do that. I'm curious to hear, though, is there anything new, some latest updates on some of these invites and some of the approach on how things are going to be looking for the event?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there's been a lot of fanfare surrounding, I know, with the Senior Bowl, East-West getting their selections or invitations out, and ours are going out next week. So we're going to start getting our initial wave out, and very excited about all the guys that we're adding. Still really just looking for those gems has just been our process. Obviously, we all know that for some of the top guys that are going down to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, we really want to try and uncover some of those kind of mid to late round draft picks, even some of those guys that are priority free agents. Just as you guys know, just because you go undrafted does not mean you're a bad football player or that your prospects are bleak. So I'm always excited just to get some good players out included in our game. We're going to have a great virtual event that the PA's done some awesome programming for. Guys should be excited about. And then the unique thing that we're really doing that's different than the Shrine especially is we're going to interview the guys and mimic what they would get during an all-star game interview with the NFL clubs. And we're going to record those and get those out to the clubs so that they can get a glimpse of the players' stories, so that they can get a feel for their personalities and just listen to them sit there and talk about their background and, just share what they have going on and why they should get drafted. So really looking forward to getting this ball rolling and announcing these guys as soon as the college football season concludes.
Now, you mentioned that the NFL PA Bowl tends to have a lot of late round guys, a lot of really high priority UDFAs. There was a really good group last year that are currently doing very well on NFL rosters. This year's going to be a lot different, and something that I've debated a lot and talked to a lot of different people about, and I've been pretty vocal about, is some of these guys that maybe are on the fringe of being UDFAs and maybe have a more difficult time establishing themselves as draft prospects, considering the fact that there is technically an extra year of eligibility. Where do you stand on this? Like, do you think some of those guys maybe should consider going back and it might benefit them, or should they take advantage of the opportunity to come out now when there's not as many people in the pool?
It's a great question, Joe, and John can speak to this as well from all his experience in the league and up in Canada too. But the thing that I'm telling and that I recommend, if anyone asks me, if you're not almost a lock to get drafted, I would highly consider returning. And I'll say it this way. Fortunately, it looks as though we're on the cusp of getting vaccines out. Hopefully 2021 will be significantly different and that we can have a semblance of normalcy, but there's no guarantee for that. There's no guarantee the Senior Bowl is going to happen. There's no guarantee the Combine is going to happen, that pro days are going to happen. And then after the draft, more importantly, for those players that don't have their name called in April, there's no guarantee you're going to have rookie minicamp, that teams are going to be allowed to bring in tryout players, and that there's even going to be a preseason just like this past year. So all these opportunities that we're talking about for undrafted players to state their case and demonstrate their skill in front of NFL talent evaluators, a lot of these traditional avenues and routes may not be available. So, for what it's worth, just one man's opinion, I always recommend that, hey, if you're not hearing that you have a likely draftable outcome coming in April, you ought to consider it, especially if you have not completed your degree.
John, are you in the same boat, or do you disagree? What do you think on this?
Yeah, I think it's just, it's very difficult when you look at, the factor that, everybody, including the seniors, have to announce their intention. You're kind of creating a lot of static, for scouts. Scouts have mentioned the same things at a couple of, times where people have been allowed to go to games and be in a press box. They're not even going and being in the press box. A lot of scouts are going to games, having an access viewpoint, kind of a launching pad to watch, pregame, and then going to the stands. And you're watching the game, in the stands. There's no interacting with one of the coaches pregame. There's no, real interaction, with you're kind of getting your info from the SID at the school via an app or a text message after the game. So, schools and people are trying their best to figure their way through all this as well. And there are ways to, talk about doing, virtual pro days, using coaching staffs or using the people that have been around these players. But you're already hearing, the metrics of how other people are trying to do things. Okay, do I want to watch individual only for 3 days? Well, at this point, maybe it's better than nothing. But, to still have to do your interview, kind of, through Zoom, type thing there, and to have all the kids separated. And then also to say, we've all been in different places right now. If we were then going to an all-star game, how would each one of us feel when we were going back home, right? Dane has a young family. One of my two is a little more, susceptible to it. You go back and you visit with your parents or your grandma, somebody in your family that's older, or we're all coming from different backgrounds. So just because it appears like every day, this is, well, pretty much all probably Dane and I do, for the most part. If you have, 80 to 100 scouts all together, you're having, right, Joe, we're having guys like Joe, we're having guys like Dane, then you're having somebody that's been scouting for 30 years. You have a whole mixed match of people, backgrounds, situations, and you bring them all together. It's not about just them interacting with the players. What about this? Just them interacting with themselves. If you're sitting in the stands at the Senior Bowl, there's still physical interaction kind of going on between folks. And, we'll see how they come up with it. They're saying it might be only certain people in a certain hotel, certain access, the practices. Okay, it's outdoors. Maybe that's not as, as much of a problem, but I think, what they're doing, it's smart. It's progressive that at least, what they're trying to do is, get these players in front of experts, guys that have worked in the league, do the interview process, learn more about what it's like. Dane, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is this kind of going to be more like a pseudo like rookie symposium, type thing, just doing it ahead of time?
Yeah, I know. It's a great point, John. And yes, it is, to that point. Obviously, as the union for all NFL players, the NFLPA wants to educate the next crop of rising, if you will, NFL players and provide them with these contacts and resources that they're going to have once they go sign that NFL contract. So, it's something that we always put on at the NFLPA Bowl. All of our players for the last 9 games that we've had have received what we call NFLPAU, or NFLPA University, instruction during the week. Obviously, this year we can't get them, some of the other aspects of the All-Star game experience. So we are going to try to, again, provide that during our interviews. But at least we can get them some education, get them to fill out a questionnaire, and then get that to all the NFL clubs.
So why don't we get into to wrap up here today? We've got a decent chunk of time left here with you, Dane. Who are some guys that have been impressing you lately? Some guys that are now on your radar that did really well this past weekend that you're paying attention to?
Sure. I mean, we had several, a couple receivers that really stuck out to me. A guy that, we've kind of talked about in the past too, and, Javon McKinley from Notre Dame. Doesn't get a lot of acclaim, a lot of accolade oftentimes. Ben Skronek, if I'm, probably butchering his last name, he gets some of it, especially of recent, but, finally against Syracuse on Saturday, McKinley scored his first 3 touchdowns of the season, had a big game, just recorded his 4th 100-yard game of the season. And just for some context, Chase Claypool only recorded 3 of such a year ago. So, Javon McKinley doing some big things. I like him as a big body possession receiver for the next level, a really good blocker. To me, he's that prototypical X that we're going to be seeing on Sundays. Also at receiver, Rico Bussey, favorite of mine from a year ago at North Texas, tore his ACL 5 games into last season, transferred to Hawaii. It hasn't had the type of production that he had in 2018 and started last year with the Mean Green, but finally got in the end zone himself for the first time this past weekend against San Jose State, and starting to show some of those glimpses of the explosiveness that he displayed earlier in his college career. And then a linebacker, this one's just for RIC in the Garden State out there, but I'm going to butcher the name, so forgive me ahead of time. But let me see if I can get this right. Olakunle Fatakasi, linebacker from Rutgers. He leads the Big Ten. He's on pace to potentially break the Big Ten's all-time tackle record. He recorded 17 tackles last week against Penn State. Man's all over the field. He's built for speed, plays will linebacker for him. He's a constant presence that the opposing teams need to know about. Obviously, record 17 tackles in a game, you're doing something right. So, he's constantly around the football, flying around, throwing his body around. And then finally, another of the similar record, San Diego State's Dwayne Johnson. 3-3-5 defense that they play. He oftentimes over the slot, sometimes goes and plays on the back end. One of those hybrid linebackers, strong safety, real box types. I think he's going to be outstanding on special teams at the next level. Hard hitting, plays with a high motor, never stops. Love his intensity and his on-play demeanor. So, he really showed well, I thought, last week, and having a nice season. And we kind of highlighted him in our little bit when Mountain West announced their return to play, and he's kind of lived up to that bill as well.
John, did you have something else that you wanted to cap us off with here, or?
Yeah, first off, thanks for not going to the David Turner School of Pronunciation.
I'm wearing my Mavs sports shirt, though.
Yeah, that's why I teased it. I wanted to get him some free publicity. You're welcome, David. Here's my question for you. Looking and taking you in a different direction, put a different hat on for a minute. 2020 has been obviously a very different season, right? We're talking about having a virtual reality all-star game. I did give you a good idea there. You could go create all these guys on Madden and then play it out for them, see how it goes.
That's what they're doing in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. If you're sitting there and you're working for the Philadelphia Eagles and you know what you got with Carson Wentz so far, and now you see 2020. If you're the executive in charge of a team that their franchise quarterback looks like that in 2020, hit the reset button, hit the panic button. Dane, where are you at with that?
Ooh, all right. Well, I happen to be a Carson Wentz fan. I think that, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I would stay with it for another year. To me, 2020 is such an anomaly. All these teams, I mean, certainly for Philadelphia, right? Out of 4 teams in the NFC East, you're the only one returning your coaching staff from the previous year. They ought to have been the best team in that division, hands down. All right, so the season's been a disappointment. However, I would stick with Carson Wentz. let's see how Jalen Hurts does. They're throwing him against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, let's be honest. How good do we expect Jalen Hurts to really be? Is this going to be a fair opportunity? But if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I sit there and say 2020 is an anomaly. 2020, we can't put too much weight in. I want to see what 2021 is going to hold for my franchise, and then we'll make some serious decisions.
No, that definitely makes sense, especially considering how much money they're paying him. You can't exactly just bail on that when you have multiple.
Carson's not going anywhere. So.
Right. And it's just a bump in the road. See what you can get out of Jalen Hurts. Maybe move him if he impresses. But Dane, that's all we have for you today on the State of Football. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
No, I appreciate it as always, fellas. Joe, great having you host, and John, always good seeing you, man.
Awesome, brother.
Have a good one, fellas.
You too. So joining us next is going to be Ray Austin, former NFL player.
Hey,
how you doing, Ray?
Hey, I'm COVID up. You know, I'm COVID and branded up. That's what we do in the FCF. How you guys doing?
Good. You don't want to catch it over the stream.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? You don't know. You just don't know yet. You know, you got to be careful. Just like you guys were talking about, the COVID's out there, so you got to be
right. So, Ray, you're coming on to talk to us about fan-controlled football, which is such a cool concept, and I'm already want to know as much about this as possible and to hear it from you. Can you just give us a little bit of background to start off on fan control football?
Yeah, man. We've been doing this for 7 years. Me and my co-founders, and it has been a exciting road, to say the least. But we've been trying to create, something different, something that's never been done before. We're creating a platform that's, combining sports, entertainment, and technology, and we're really excited about it. We're allowing our fans literally to help us organize and control an actual football team. And you got to think about how hard that is. You guys are just talking about the scouting part of football. There are so many different layers of what it takes to put together a quality football team. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're using technology, which is great. Just like you guys were talking, these games and the scouts can't get out. They can't go and scout players. You can only go so many places without, putting your life in jeopardy. So, the COVID has changed sports for, going forward. And, we call it, sports in a bubble, football in a bubble. And that's kind of what we're creating. We're putting 4 teams. We're creating 4 teams that we're going to go around the country, which we already have, Texas, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. And we literally went out and did combines to find players for our fans to put on their teams. So our fans are literally going to construct their football teams with actual players. Some of the players that you guys were actually talking about that are going to the NFLPA Bowl that were free agents. And, guys think that it's over just because they don't get drafted. And that's not true. There's always other ways to get into to the NFL, but you're not a free agent if you're sitting on the couch. You have to make film. And I think that's where guys lose it, where everybody's training. Well, that's great. But if you're not making film, then you're not a free agent. So, this is the way we're allowing players to make film. They're going to come in January. We're having a bubble in Atlanta. We'll have 4 teams. All players will be staying in the same place. We start training camp in January. It'll be a short season, 2.5 months, January through March, because we want guys to not only be able to make quality film, but still be able to have opportunities to go and play and do things in the future.
It's interesting that you bring up how this becomes like another opportunity for some of these players who didn't get that shot, didn't stick on a roster, go and get that film. And right now, without an XFL and the CFL's not even playing, you don't have that secondary option. So right now, this sounds like a perfect option because it has an interesting entertainment factor to it that'll draw some eyes to it. What would you say is going to be the process of making sure everybody stays safe and healthy? What are some of the precautions? You already talked about the bubble, and that seems to be an issue for the NFL right now. Is there anything that you're trying to do differently?
Yeah, man. Look at the sports that have not used the bubble concept. We've had this concept for years, before the COVID even happened. And what we've actually brought on our own COVID protocol doctor. Her name is Tara Seals. She was with the G League. She did an excellent job. I don't know if you guys know about the G League, but the minor league basketball team, and basketball league, excuse me. And they had absolutely no outbreaks, and that's what we're looking to do. So we've got a protocol where all of our players, when they report in, everyone has their own hotel room. Now, not even in the NFL, when I was in training camp, did players have their own hotel room. So we're trying our best to keep guys separated. We'll be working with a protocol of using players in pods, and in other words, having guys travel in fours or groups, so we can make sure that we can keep everybody safe. We'll be testing guys continuously through the season, just to make sure guys are always, and we're always being safe. No, if you come into the bubble, you're not coming out. It's either in or out. If anybody leaves the bubble, you can't come back in the bubble. We can't. We're in the mission of you can't burst our bubble. We have to get through the entire season, so we're going to make sure we take that really, really, really serious.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking, because with the NBA, we had it happen really early on. What do you do if somebody orders some food and they have to walk out and go get it? Are they completely done? Is their season completely done?
They're not getting that food. We'll figure it out. But you're not coming down and getting that food. We don't need you. We're going to have security and everything. We don't need anybody coming and bursting our bubble. We have too much stuff to do. We have too many exciting things to show our fans, and we have a great platform for our players. I think that was something that you guys are talking about, having a platform. I played in the NFL for 4 years. I didn't even play that long, But the other side of my life was in entertainment. And that's kind of what we're trying to create. I always tell people, they go, what did the NFL, what did you get out of the NFL? I'm like, well, besides 2 bad knees and a shoulder, I got a network and I got access. I got a network to do things after my life was over playing football, and I had access to a huge network. So that's what we're trying to create with the FCF, a platform for our players to be able to show the world, take off your helmet and show the world who you are besides just a football player. I love what you guys are talking about, with the NFLPA a game where you guys were actually doing interviews and getting to know these guys. And we're going to be doing the same thing. We're taking the helmet off. We're going to allow our players to show the world, what they can do besides football, whether they're content creators, whether they're production, or whatever. It's the place where, entertainment, sports, and technology all mash into one. Our athletes alone aren't just one dimensional. If you think about what's going on in the NCAA, they're allowing players to start using their images and likenesses to make money. So that's letting you know that the future of the future athlete is going to be a 3-dimensional athlete. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an athlete that not can only just tackle, score touchdowns, and throw the ball, but what else can you do that we can show you have equity as an actual talent, not a football player, but a talent.
So I'm curious to hear, though, what's the entertainment platform like for this? So, like, where can people catch the games? And you're already talking about wanting to have guys that have that extra it factor to them. So, like, are there any other forms of content that you're putting out besides these games?
Yeah, so we're going to be playing on Twitch. Twitch is our major partner, which is freaking awesome. I mean, this is literally going to be a live video game. We're allowing our fans to put these players. I saw some of the chat that was like, can you make a player and play a virtual game? Well, no, you don't have to make a virtual player. You're going to have an actual player, and allow you to not only put together your roster every week, draft every week, and change your roster up, but show, allow fans to see how hard it is to construct an actual football team. So we're going to be playing on Twitch. We also have a linear deal coming up soon. We can't announce it yet, but it's going to be super exciting. We have a huge linear partner that we're going to be partnering with, but we're also going to have multiple shoulder content within the bubble. You got to think about how all the things that happen around football, from players getting hurt, from players, missing their families, from players, doing skits, rookie symposium, all the great things about football that usually fans can't see. We're breaking that wall down and saying, hey, we're going to deliver you content that you've never seen before. That's, literally hard knocks 24 hours. That's what we're trying to create.
I remember when I played, being in the locker room and being in training camp. That was the most fun that I had. The fun stuff is on the field, but some of the crazy entertaining stuff is the stuff that happens in the back end. John, is there anything that you're curious to hear on, or anything that you want to hop in and ask about?
A couple things. So Ray mentioned, not only is it, picking the players, but I mean, you guys just released logos, right? The fans and the interaction with it is kind of at every, layer. You're kind of peeling the onion back, and giving them a chance to, to be involved. Is there a part of it that even, kind of got you kind of, excited in terms of saying,
it's funny you
part of the NFL and the XFL. I couldn't imagine how exciting this other part of doing a football team was until you actually got to see it.
Man, you hit it on the nail, man. For me, I love opening up opportunities for people, and I know how difficult it is to get to that. Everybody wants to play in the NFL, and to be able to scout and watch film on guys and say, man, I like you. You guys know how it is when you see that one kid that has that thing that you like, and you're able to talk about that, and that's he becomes what you said he was. That's what I love. I love bringing these young guys in and saying, man, I think this guy is going to be successful, and I think our fans are going to think is going to make him successful as well. So just the recruiting process of it. I love the content part of what we're trying to create, because I think there's so much around football that people fail to get and see, and I want to be able to we want to be able to show that to everyone. And not only that, the fact that we are being so innovative. If you think about all the other leagues, and this is no disrespect to any of them, but the blueprint has changed. The model of sports has changed, and having 30 teams around the country, and especially with the way things are right now, having 30 teams around the country and having guys fly all around and all that is changing, and we want to. Our innovative concept, to me, is going to be worldwide. It's going to be global. We'll be able to do a FCF in Atlanta, and probably one in Arizona, and probably one in China, probably one in Japan, and literally have a super worldwide bowl. That's our when we look down the road on this, that's what we look to see, is like to create a global place where our players and our fans can interact on the same platform and then just have a freaking awesome time.
Well, you mentioned about wanting, to show players the versatility of what you could do on the field to then what you could do off the field. Hey, Joe, I think Ray might have been foreshadowing it, because we saw him as a Chicago enforcer, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I might have seen you as a true Chicago enforcer. Was that not you playing on an episode of Chicago PD?
that might be my twin brother, but no.
Wait, you might have been on the cover, so we might not be able to talk about it.
I laugh about it because a lot of my friends, especially when I'm talking football, they only talk about football, and now my life after football has probably been just as successful on screen. And so yes, I've been in a lot of the shows in Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Empire, and I've had a great career on TV. And again, I think that is the other part in me that I want for our players, and say, man, I know there are so many other players out there that are so three-dimensional that can do the same thing that I'm doing. They just need to figure out how to get there. I'm going to be real. People don't even know this about me. I'll be straight up honest. Some of my favorite people that I grew up watching was, Jim Brown, and I'm going to be real, O.J. Simpson. I'm just being real. And the reason being is because I was like, wow, man, those guys are playing football and they're on TV. It was super intriguing to me. And I literally blueprinted my career doing that. I said, if I go ahead and play football, I could probably end up on TV. And, and that's what we want to create. We want to say, hey, man, look, football is your platform. Now let's use that to open up all the other doors that you're about to have, for the rest of your career. So I'm just super excited to be able to do it, and I just want to be able to pass that torch on to all our players.
Have you had any guys that have taken advantage of this opportunity and found avenues in entertainment, or maybe even if it's just through YouTube content. Have you had any guys that have done stuff outside of football just from being in this unique spotlight?
Oh yeah. I mean, again, we were talking about doing interviews. Not only did I sit down with all of our players, we went to, again, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and Texas. And when we did these interviews, man, I asked those questions, and man, I was running into guys that were actors, content creators. We had a few guys that were models, and did some, some local stuff. And I'm in my mind as I'm talking to it, I'm like, yes, this is the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy. He already, proved he could play on the field, which is what we wanted to see, because that's the number one thing. We have to have quality players. We want to make sure we have quality players. But when I say quality players, that's an all-around player. We want to see that talent, side of you as well. And so it was really cool to see other people that had that background. To me, those would be the easy guys that we want to put in front of our fans for them to see what they can do.
So first, I just want to ask, because we're getting a little close to wrapping up here with you, Ray.
Yeah.
Where can players reach out if they are interested in joining the league and they want to possibly try out or send in their film? Like, what's the best way for if somebody's tuning in right now, says like, man, that sounds exactly like what I want to do. That I feel like I belong in this league. How can people connect with you?
Yep. You can go to our website, or you can go to player.fcf.io, and you can upload all of your information right on our website. All that stuff comes directly to me in Football Ops, and we watch everyone. I mean, for the last 3 weeks, we have literally been combing our list of 6,000 players. Literally, all of our Football Ops have been splitting them up, not just from our combines, but from our application, from our website. We've had personal emails. We've had scouts and agents. We've had a lot of people just coming in and just really giving us all the players that for us to look at. And we're scouring all those players, trying to pick the best ones. So if you have film, you want to send it to us, go to player.fcf.io. My email is ray@fcf.io. I am the commissioner and one of the co-founders. And again, we are taking this very serious. If you're serious about playing football and extending your football career, you need to come and play for the FCF, period. If you're not a free agent, I will say this again, you are not a free agent if you are sitting on the couch. And if you're sitting on the couch, that means somebody else is training and taking your opportunity.
Now, lastly, for any fans that are interested in the league, where can everybody find all of the amazing content that you guys are going to start putting out? What's the best place to head to? Social links?
Yeah, fcf.io. That's our website, and you can come and check out the teams right now. We've already picked the logos. You got to see some of the logos and some of the people. And this is something I didn't really talk about. Some of the people that we have involved as our team owners. You've got Mike Tyson, Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, Quavo, Bob Minery, Greg Miller from Kind of Funny, Trevor May. We've got guys that not only are athletes, but think about their background. They've done more than just be athletes. You've got Mike Tyson's on TV. You've got Quavo producing shows. You've got Richard Sherman in commercials. We wanted team owners that show that three-dimensional concept that we're looking for. The same thing with me. We want our players to see and have those type of role models in front of them. So they say, we want to use our platforms to push them and get those guys successful. So you can go to fcf.io. You can go follow some of the teams, the Glacier Boys, the Zappers, the Wild Aces. Why am I missing one? I just missed one. But you can go to our website and check them out, fcf.io, and get all of our information, man. I'm looking for the right player. I'm looking for all players. If you think you have what it takes to play for the FCF, come look us up.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Ray, for hopping in. I know I'm definitely going to go check that out. Heck, maybe when I'm recovered, I'll submit an application. We'll see how things go. I'll talk to my agent. But
hey, listen, and tell all the fans out there, look, once you sign up, man, if you know players that you think that could play for us, man, why don't you get in touch with them and have them get in touch with us? Because could you imagine you as a fan, finding a player, a diamond in the rough, and he ends up coming into our league and being successful? That's what we're trying to create. scouts can barely go out and see players now. Now with this concept, we have eyeballs everywhere, and our fans now are not the same fans in 1990. Or we're dealing with a different type of fan now, a lean forward fan, a fan that understands football, understands scouting, understands football formations and players and all those things. And we want to be able to use their knowledge and put together some quality football.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Ray. Hope we'll look forward to seeing what turns out with fan-controlled football, and wishing you the best of luck.
Let's go, baby. Power to the fans, baby.
All right. Have a good one, Ray. That was awesome. I don't know about you, but I'm juiced up just hearing about all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very different. I think that'll take, the average sports, somebody who's just a football fan, to take kind of a bigger picture, a different picture. But I think the average, right, like the kind of average sports fan, somebody who it's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or, or their, significant other, and stuff. This is something that could get video game crowd, young crowd, sports crowd, that you add that all together, that's a pretty good amount of people across the board. And I think the interesting is the politicking that could then go on means your best player, well, that's great, but if he's not socially interactive, he may not be playing the next week.
Right.
Whereas the kid that is socially interactive is immediately going to get picked every week. So what I like is there's probably a fantasy sports element to it. There's interesting things about grading these guys, like in terms of, hey, you're going to have an assortment of players with probably a greater assortment of backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So the ranking elements, like there is with a Madden, to give everybody kind of an easier table to understand and recognize the talent that you're watching. And then the role models, like he just said, to be able to interact and see what Richard Sherman has done, see how, Marshawn Lynch has branded himself. You see right there, Ray Austin is running the league, commissioner, has outside projects. This is all the things you could do as a player. And then, you take in that technology, side of thing and make something very interactive, means that it's going to be very easy to follow and stuff. So I know they have, next week they have not a deadline, but a kind of an update, at the end of the week. So we'll be interested in the next 2 weeks before the holidays to hear back from, Ray or someone else and kind of see who are some of the names, right? Like who are some of the guys, that we end up seeing playing in that league, because it's a very interesting concept. And I do know one thing, when Rick and I asked about going to the event, they were dead on exactly what he just said. If you're coming and you're coming for the week, you're in that bubble just like we are, and kind of decide when you want to come, because once you're in, and once you're gone, thanks for coming.
Right, right.
Yeah, so you can tell like that they're taking all parts of that seriously, and we look forward to seeing what's next. Yeah.
No, I'm curious to see how it turns out. A very interesting concept. Heard bits and pieces of it, so it was cool to get to hear directly from Ray. So to wrap up today's episode of The State of Football, we're being joined, as always, by Neil Stratton, who is the author of Scout Speak, also an insider in the NFL. Neil, how you doing?
I just want to tell you guys, I'm glad, I'm with the A team today. I mean, you finally got rid of the dead weight around here. I've been wondering how long it was going to take. I'm honored. Let's move forward without, who needs Rick, really? That guy.
Right. Yeah, no, you're hopping in though after having to follow the energy that Ray supplied, so not really an easy spot to be thrown into.
And I just gave Ray a hard time about that, man. I mean, it's 8:49 my time. I barely got moved. I haven't had my coffee yet. Now I got to go after Ray. Come on, please. You guys must not love me, because you would put me on beforehand, so everyone kind of snooze through, hit the snooze a couple more times, and then they'd be ready for Ray.
Well, we're trying to give you a couple extra minutes of sleep here, so we let you go in the end. I guess that wasn't the best idea.
I appreciate it. I understand now.
Right. So, Neil, why don't we get into the big key thing here? What's the latest buzz that you're hearing, around the NFL and maybe in some of these front offices?
Well, we're talking about tomorrow in the Friday wrap. what is this draft class going to look like, guys? It's a really interesting question with a lot of sides to it. If I'm a day 3 player, I'm being recruited heavily by my school to stick around. And I'm starting to hear that even some day 2 players are kind of feeling like they might want to not, this might be a good draft to sit out, given the fact the NCAA has given them that opportunity. And there's a real question on the minds of players, on scouts, executives, if we'll even have pro days this year. If there's no March, if there's not that traditional, kind of run through every school that has prospects, what does that mean for the draft class? How do players get to kind of get discovered, so to speak? Maybe guys who are a little bit lost in the shuffle, but have the tools that NFL teams want. They don't get that opportunity this year, potentially. Now, the big wild card and what could be a game changer is the vaccine. If the vaccine is widely accepted, if it's effective, if people start to see it as a way to kind of get back into whatever normal is, then maybe all that changes. But there are so many wild cards, so many uncertainties on the horizon facing this draft class that it's beginning to look from the people that I've spoken to that it's safer not to go out, which is a theme I guess we've all followed for the last year or so. And I'm speaking to directors of player personnel on the college level. I'm speaking to agents, the guys that are actually talking to these kids and hearing what they're saying. A lot of different voices that are all coming back to me and saying we could have a sizably shrunk class this year. And that's something I think that the rank and file fan hasn't talked about, hasn't really thought about, but could be a reality this year.
I think one common misconception we keep seeing with this current issue that you just brought up, there's a lot of guys that are opting out and choosing there were FCS guys that I saw choosing not to play in the spring. There were some guys that stopped their season early and opted out that are outside the cusp of the UDFA radar, that are a little bit even outside of even getting that opportunity, like a rookie mini camp guy or even less than that. And some of these names are just questionable. I think a misconception right now is that people think because the group is going to be smaller, those guys have a better shot. Is that the case, or is it really just these guys choosing to leave and if they're not good enough, they're not good enough?
Well, one thing, it's a good question. I don't know that there's an answer to it yet. It's a possibility. I think it's more likely that the NFL restricts its opportunities, I guess we'd say. Last year, we saw no tryouts, no rookie minicamp. We could see a reduced number of UDFAs this year. Again, I don't know what direction the NFLPA is going to go as far as, what kind of policies they're going to get behind and those kind of things. But I think one possible solution for this could be an extended combine with more players invited, and that kind of becomes your pro day. And if that is successful and scouts and teams feel like they've gotten what they needed out of that, that could be the model as we go forward even further. The difficulty being that's a lot of players to run through the rigorous medical checks that are part and parcel of the combine every year. So I think there are a lot of things to be worked out. The one thing we're hearing all the time, and y'all probably are hearing as well, is that there are a lot of contracts signed in Indianapolis. There are a lot of things going on that you can't just say, well, let's just change it. You can't do that on a whim. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of interested parties, and it's not as easy to just pick up and move the way kind of we've seen with a lot of other people in society and culture right now as they react to the virus. I don't know, and I don't have insights, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they don't seem to know either what February is going to look like, what March is going to look like. And it affects so many people in the industry, from combine prep trainers, obviously, to agents, to the players themselves, to coaches on the college and the NFL side. I mean, we are dealing with a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And, last year I give the commissioner a lot of credit that he essentially was able to keep the draft in place, and everything more or less looked business as usual, at least from the outside. I don't know that we can count on that kind of stability in the next 90 to 120 days.
John, is there anything that you want to weigh in on this issue?
Yeah, I think, the other major part of it is, when you have the restrictions that are there in terms of, we mentioned, are you keeping the games that are going to try to play, things that are going to try to go and do things. We just mentioned it with Dane. All of us would be coming from different places going to an event like that. So then how do you keep that from becoming, an issue to say, okay, hey, strategically, normally in a normal year, good for me, bad for you. You had a 3-week journey where every time you turned around, there I was, and now if you're on that, in these 3 different cities, going to these 3 different events, we might be doing Zoom interviews with the players, but the scouts and the coaches and the business people, they're all wanting to interact. That was the end of your day. Get back to your room, do your notes, get your information ready, and then boom, let's get downstairs and, get in the mix, find out what's going on with people, find out what's going on with free agents, find out what's going on with the next group of combine invites and so on and so forth. That's a very difficult, part of it to police, in any way, shape, or form. Do you keep the NFL teams in one hotel and the players kind of, in another? And, the same thing, when it comes to Indianapolis, I mean, think about the weather, and stuff there at that time of year, and the close interaction, that everybody has because of that. Everything's indoors, and it's not, just if you try to buffer all that free-flowing interaction and then you restrict it, the other part of this that's getting affected is we've noticed it, whether it's at the college level or the pro level, jobs are being reduced, salaries are being reduced, opportunities are being reduced. That's an issue when the parties can't then behind the scenes be interacting with each other to kind of know, like, oh, hey, heads up about this, or, oh, hey, did you see this opportunity might come up, or, things like that. A lot of that water cooler talk that has disappeared from the scouting, world, in the past year. To me, Joe, that has hurt the lesser known, the 5th-year senior, the redshirt sophomore, that's showing some signs of life, or that kid that's playing, at that other school, and stuff. Hey, they may make it all the way to, Texas and A&M and TCU, SMU. Are they making it over to Texas State this year? Are they making it down to, Houston Baptist, or, that's the part of it that, at times is a little bit rougher, on things. And Neil, I think that's a part of the wheel, right? That now good for some people, right? Because every Friday they get their fix of it, but they're not getting it every day the way we used to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, people in the NFL are creatures of habit too. They're used to a routine. And when that routine is upset, some people are going to benefit from it, but I think the vast majority of people are going to really struggle with it. And, obviously one of the fun parts of the draft for a lot of people is looking at those guys that are rounds 4 through 7, maybe that go undrafted, that got opportunities and turned into NFL stars. A lot of those players may not get the opportunities they have in the past. Maybe that benefits Ray, maybe that benefits the FCF, maybe it benefits The Rock whenever the XFL comes back. But in the short run, it could start to have an impact on the field in the NFL. And, we're still, obviously the stars are still going to be there. And I'm not trying to be some kind of fear monger or whatever, but it does change the way things operate. And eventually we'll start to see that on Sundays.
Yeah. And I think the one thing too, is guys just need to be prepared for the worst if they're, and I know it's such a defeatist attitude, but the reality is if you're a lesser known cusp guy, you need to only do it if you have your degree, be ready to get a job, and you just have to be prepared for the difficult situation that's going on right now. That's basically what happened to the last crop of guys that were on that back end of maybe hoping to get that rookie minicamp invite. Now they're all in the job market. Luckily, a lot of those guys did graduate with degrees that they're working right now and they're able to still train, but it's just, you need to be prepared for having to do that. Don't leave unless you have that opportunity to go find work, and maybe take your time and be patient with it.
Yeah, there's no question. And yeah, there are always, it'll be harder than ever to find that Kurt Warner out there, and that's again, for all the amateur scouts that love to find those diamonds in the rough, here's your opportunity. Go find those players, because the NFL might not find them this year.
All right, so just to wrap us up here, we've got a few minutes left. We also have Thursday night football coming on tonight, so might as well hit on that. We have the Rams playing the Patriots, a game that is a rematch of when they faced off in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. These are two very different football teams. No Tom Brady, Cam Newton at the helm. Jared Goff still looks like Jared Goff, but the Rams defense is playing better than it has ever been. So, John, I want to head to you first. I want to get some game picks and some quick thoughts. Who do you think's coming out of this game and why?
Yeah, I don't see it. Last week you had 40. The Patriots put up 45. I don't think they're putting up 45. They might not put up 25 against the Rams. To me, this is another one. Every week for them is a playoff game. You look at the number of teams, after the Ravens won, there's a big, kind of mosh of guys, that are there between kind of, team 6 and team 9, and there's a lot of avenues that are going to have to happen just for the Ravens to get back in. For the Patriots, it's win out and pray, that something happens there where somebody gets a 2-game losing streak, and you might have a shot. For the Rams, this is more positioning. You've now gotten yourself a little distance. Arizona's got some trouble. Seattle cannot just keep up scoring 38 a game to win. And last week couldn't even, get into the 20s, against a much improved Giants team. So to me, Rams, more talent. They found their run game. It's just a question of the Rams have become the Belichick, of this season. If you're playing fantasy football, stay away from the Rams backfield because it's Malcolm Brown. Then it's Henderson. Now it's Akers. Well, wait. Now it's Henderson again. So, that means that it'll be Malcolm Brown, on Thursday night. Yeah, I think short week. The other thing the Patriots are doing because of COVID, they went and played the Chargers and then hung out in California for the week, playing the Rams, then going home. Back end of that, to me, is a little suspect. Shorter week. And I think some of the things the Rams can do creatively, can give the Patriots some trouble. Aaron Donald, is not a favorable matchup against anybody. They have, Jalen Ramsey, and the Patriots really don't have a guy, that Jalen Ramsey needs to go track and cover. So I think this is a 24-13, 24-16, Rams by a score, and not an easy game, but probably not the prettiest one either.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to go with the upset this week, guys. I mean, I think the favorite parlor game going into the season was it Belichick or was it Brady? All the success in New England. And I think Brady won the first round, the first half of the season, but maybe Bill Belichick's kind of come in and won the second round. I think that Belichick's genius on defense probably gives the Patriots enough to slow down the play-action passing game and maybe even confuse Jared Goff enough to where he throws a few picks. And I got to tell you, I counted Cam Newton out early in the year. I mean, you got to give him credit for going back to the 1970s Nebraska offense and basically becoming a run-first team that passes only when necessary. I give the Patriots the edge on this. They've got their backs to the wall, and I think they can do enough on defense to counter what the Rams do.
All right, so there are your two expert picks for Thursday night football. Folks, that is going to be it for us here on the State of Football. Thank you for tuning in. Again, if you have not done so already, go follow us at NFL Draft Bible. In addition to that, if you're tuning in on YouTube, maybe on Facebook, hit that subscribe button, that follow button, whatever you need to stay up to date. Thank you, folks, and you can catch us on our next episode.